What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron, and it's Tuesday morning, which means it's time to look forward to working the waiver wire. So today we are going to be talking through my must-add waiver wire targets for Week 8 of the fantasy football season. I have about 10 players here, all under 50% owned in ESPN leagues. Let's not waste any more time. If you enjoy, make sure you get down below, subscribe, leave a like. Let's go.
Like this froze, ice cold, ice around my body like I'm frozen. She gon' let me.
Now, first up, we have a pair of running backs. We have the Rams backfield here with Darrell Henderson and Royce Freeman. Now, I will say sometimes I split these guys up into like priority ads, normal ads. I'd say this week is pretty stacked on the waiver wire. I'll let you guys know when we get towards just like flyer territory, but for these first 5, 6, 7, these guys are players that I'm putting probably like 10% or higher bids on now. Royce Freeman is kind of in tandem with Henderson. Henderson's the big bid. Royce Freeman's just kind of a guy that I'd probably grab if he just sort of slipped through the cracks. He was on this list last week, but we have Kareem Williams go down. We have Ronnie Rivers go down. And then we had like this 4-man roulette of Darrell Henderson, Royce Freeman, Myles Gaskin, and Zach Evans. Zach Evans was a very popular one last week. We get to game day, and Darrell Henderson comes out here with 20 opportunities. Royce Freeman had 12 opportunities. You get 13.6 PPR points for Darrell Henderson. Royce Freeman, not as great, but he was a more efficient runner on the ground. Henderson is the guy to own at this point. He's not nearly as efficient as Kareem Williams, but there is a chance that, he is somebody that did come off the couch. He hadn't been playing football. He actually signed an XFL contract days before signing with the Rams here. So if he gets up to speed, we could see him pretty much take over the entire Kareem Williams role and be like an RB2 you can start every week. I think that he's probably like a borderline RB2 right now, but he could work his way up into Kareem Williams, or Kareem Williams was like a top 12 start until he got hurt. Now, the usage is pretty good for Henderson. We're talking like a 60-40 split here, 60% of the rush attempts, 41% of the routes is decent, 15% target route run is good, inside the 5 attempts 100%, and then 100% of the 2-minute. So if you were getting 100% of the goal line looks and 100% of the 2-minute drill and working in the passing game, that's a really, really nice role that Darrell Henderson has carved himself out here. And Royce Freeman's probably worth a little bit of a flyer as well. Now, after that, our second must-add pair here is going to be the Cleveland running backs. We have Kareem Hunt, we have Pierre Strong, and the reason for that is Jerome Ford went down, where this is a report from Sleeper. Browns running back Jerome Ford is a low-grade high ankle sprain that is expected to sideline him 1 to 2 weeks per Adam Schefter. Now, we have Adam Hutchinson here, who I believe is a physical therapist, something in that range. He's an injury analyst. He said 78% of NFL running backs since 2010 have missed over 2 weeks with a high ankle sprain. So the Browns have really tried to downplay this injury of saying, 1 to 2 weeks, which that's a contradicting statement. Low-grade, high ankle sprain. High ankle sprains are usually pretty tough and, take running backs over 2 weeks, usually like a 3-week thing. Think Saquon Barkley had a high ankle sprain earlier this year. Took him about, I want to say, like 3 weeks to come back from that. So this idea of like 1, maybe 2 weeks for a high ankle sprain is pretty crazy, even if it is a low grade. So we'll see. But if you're setting the over, 1 to 2 weeks, you're setting the over under 1.5 weeks. I'm hammering the over if that's the case. Now, Pierre Strong is worth mentioning. We had Kareem Hunt on the last waiver wire video. He's probably not available in your leagues, but he's still out there in over 50% of ESPN leagues. But Pierre Strong's an interesting ad because Kareem Hunt came into this game with an injury of his own. He was actually up in the air to play this game. He ends up playing, but he clearly wasn't himself. He barely played in the second and third quarter. And you can see here, Jerome Ford, 44% of the snaps. He's hurt. Kareem Hunt had 26% of the snaps. Pierre Strong, 28%. So Pierre Strong actually outsnapped Kareem Hunt. So Pierre Strong, to me, is a really nice waiver wire candidate. I don't know that you can start him right away. Kareem Hunt, to me, is still the 1A here, but Pierre Strong is going to be in the mix. Now, despite outsnapping him, Pierre Strong did have just 8 opportunities to Kareem Hunt's 11, so something to monitor moving forward. We'll see how this split sort of shakes out, but there should be a lot of running back opportunity in this backfield for both of these guys to be like every week RB3s. Now, after that, our third pair here is going to be the Bears running backs. We have D'Onta Foreman, we have Roschon Johnson. D'Onta Foreman, I feel like we've talked about him each of the last 2 weeks here. He is probably taken in your league, but he is available in over 50% of ESPN leagues. Same with Roschon Johnson. Now, we had this thing where we thought it was wheels up for Roschon Johnson with Herbert out. Roschon Johnson's a concussion. It takes a week longer than we thought it would. He didn't clear concussion protocol last week, and then D'Onta Foreman went absolutely bonkers. This is a tweet from Adam Levitan. 16 carries, 89 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, 3 catches, 31 receiving yards, 1 receiving touchdown. Went absolutely bonkers. Now, the interesting part is he played just 33 of 68 snaps. D'Onta Foreman is great in his own right, but he's not an every down running back for this Bears offense, and I imagine they're not super comfortable with him as a passing down 2-minute drill type of guy, and that's where Roschon Johnson comes in. Early on in the season, that was kind of his role. He's a pass-catching back despite being 225 pounds, and that's what's so exciting about him. Now, Underdog tweeted yesterday, Eberflus said Roschon Johnson has one more hurdle to clear concussion protocol, looks likely to practice on Wednesday. You never know for certain, but I'm going to say Roschon Johnson's probably going to play this week. I imagine D'Onta Foreman has earned himself the 1A of this 1A, 1B split, but I'd imagine it's almost going to be a split down the middle where D'Onta Foreman probably gets goal line and the bulk of the carries, whereas Roschon Johnson gets 2-minute drill and the bulk of the third down, long down, and distance type of snaps. I think D'Onta Foreman's probably going to be like a top 30-ish play this week, or probably more like a top 25-ish play, and then you're going to have Roschon be more of like your top 35-ish type play. Both guys, where if you're down bad, if it's a hero RB team, it's a zero RB team, I think both guys are definitely worth adding, especially because the offense, I mean, we'll see how this undrafted free agent is. I mean, he looked good. I believe it's Tyson Bagent. He looked good last week. We'll see. Really fun story there. When Justin Fields comes back, this offense should be good. So both these guys should be startable until Khalil Herbert returns to the rotation with the upside to kind of beat out Khalil Herbert rest of season. So that's a fun situation to sort of, take a stab at in Chicago. Now, after that, our fourth must-add waiver wire target, Emari Demercado. He's only rostered in 15.7% of ESPN leagues. And that's because last week, right before week 7, so in week 6, he did nothing. I believe he was out-touched by both Damian Williams and Keontae Ingram, and it was just a 3-headed backfield. It was an awful split. And then this week, it completely changed, right? Where they came out here, Emari Demercado had 78% of the snaps. He had 13 carries, 58 yards, 5 targets, 4 catches, 17 yards, just 11.5 PPR points. But going from a 3-way split to a 78% snap share with 18 opportunities, that's really nice. Now, I will say, be cautious, because it was a 3-way split, and then it was this. Like, this is something that's going to be all over the place. I think he's worth an add because we've seen what this role can look like without James Conner, but there's a chance they roll out this week and they just roll out the 3 running back, committee of Demercado, Damian Williams, and Keontae Ingram here, and it's a headache again. So I wouldn't go overboard on Demercado, but if this usage sticks, that's really interesting, especially if you have him sort of just lingering from adding him a couple weeks ago. Definitely give him some time to chill out on your bench if he does carve out a role here. Our fifth ad is going to be some rookie wide receivers. As you guys know, we love betting on rookie wide receivers. We've seen it time and time again. Last year, Christian Watson. Before that, with Amon-Ra St. Brown. We've seen it with Ayuk. We've seen it with Deebo Samuel, A.J. Brown. We've seen it across the board. Rookie wide receivers are absolute gold mines for playoff runs, and that continues this year. I love Josh Downs. Now, he is going to be someone you're going to have to bet a pretty fat amount on because he is breaking out all over the place. This is the rookie wide receiver report. You can see Josh Downs. He's between Marvin Mims and Zay Flowers, but he's running around 80% of the routes. Decent target per route run at 19.4%. Decent yards per route run at 1.77, 72.9 PFF grade. Those are all solid, and he's coming off a game where he had a 29% target share, 15.8 yard ADOT, and 24 PPR points. That is absolutely beautiful. Josh Downs is someone that's on a really nice trajectory. He had, a 15.8 yard ADOT, which is nice for him because he's kind of, he's an undersized slot guy. So he can sometimes get shoehorned into your low ADOT PPR type role. But when you get 15 yards ADOT on a 29% target share, you're going to be able to put up some pretty crazy numbers there, which he did with those 24 PPR points. So Josh Downs, to me, if you want upside at wide receiver, I think that he is the number one ad at that position. And then next up, we have somebody in a similar boat, Rashee Rice. Now, he's not quite the full-time receiver that Josh Downs is, right? Josh Downs, 81% of the Week 7 routes, whereas Rashee Rice is at 65%. So not quite a full-time wide receiver, but his per out numbers are crazy. 27.1% or 27.7% target per out run, 2.56 yards per out run, 81.2 PFF grade. Those are all elite numbers. He had a 65% route percentage. You also have Justin Ross. Don't want to make light of the situation, but he got like charged with a felony or something crazy, which absolutely sucks, man. That sucks so bad. It sucks. I don't know. I don't want to speak too much on it because we really don't know the details of it. But I mean, this was a kid who had like a crazy vertebrae injury in college. He climbs all the way back. He hangs around this Chiefs roster, and it feels like, I mean, we'll see what comes out. But it seems like maybe he tossed it all away. But regardless, Justin Watson down, potentially Justin Ross down now. I mean, you have McCole Hardman back in the mix, but Rashee Rice, if he can get to 80% plus of the routes, this is somebody you can start week in and week out. He had 6 targets, 5 catches, 60 yards, and a touchdown. His best PPR point game of the year, and his usage is only climbing. Rashee Rice is very exciting. Then another rookie wide receiver again. Rookie wide receivers are the play here, fellas. I'm telling you. Next up, we have Jayden Reed, who didn't really do anything crazy, but he's at a 20% plus target per out run, which is great. 1.64 yards per out run, which is fine. 67.6 PFF grade is like decent. But the reason why he should be back on your radar is that Christian Watson is dealing with another injury, where this one's kind of up in the air. We'll truly see what this is. I mean, this is from 4 for 4 with Jeff Mueller. He's their injury analyst. It says, given the mechanism for Christian Watson, I do not think we should be concerned about ACL, but his knee was driven inwards pretty rapidly with his foot caught underneath him. Now, the rest of that kind of dives into what the injury is. Essentially, it's a right knee injury, a projected timetable. He could be back this week. He could take a few weeks, not be back till week 10. If he takes a few weeks, this is one of those rare situations where Jayden Reed is almost like a handcuff in a way, where he was actually balling out early on in the season, and then his routes came down because Christian Watson came back. So if Christian Watson gets removed again, then Jayden Reed should be very, very interesting here, where if we actually look at the splits here of games with and without Christian Watson, he's at 11.87 points per game without Christian Watson, 6.1 points per game with Christian Watson. Super small sample size, but it makes a lot of sense. He's running more routes, getting more targets when Christian Watson is not in the mix. I don't know if I said Rashee Rice there on accident. Now, our last rookie wide receiver to add, somebody that I said is kind of I was calling him a flyer when we did the top 10 lessons learned video, but the more I think about it, I think Demario Douglas is actually a legit guy that even in 12-man normal leagues should probably be added. I mean, rookie wide receivers, again, they have a ton of upside, and Demario Douglas looks really fun, where he kind of looks like this year's Rashid Shaheed or like a Darius Slayton from years past, where you just get a guy that got drafted on day 3 coming out of nowhere. He goes out here, 76% of the routes. He goes from 18% of the routes to not playing to 76% of the routes. They beat the Bills, which is huge, right? He plays a big chunk of this game, and they win. Coaches remember that, especially a guy like Bill Belichick. And then Demario Douglas, 25% target per run is elite. That's only behind Puka Nacua and Rashee Rice on this list. 2.24 yards per run. That is only behind Nacua, Rice, Tank Dell, and Marvin Mims. And then he has a 77.3 PFF grade. All really strong numbers. Now, I will say, side note, Tank Dell, I was shocked. He's under 50% owned in ESPN leagues right now. I didn't want to put him on this list because I feel like in most leagues, no one's going to drop Tank Dell. But if somebody dropped Tank Dell in your league, I would have him. I think I would have him. I'd probably have him ahead of Josh Downs. Like, he'd be my number 1 rookie wide receiver pickup if Tank Dell was out there on somebody's waivers. But Demario Douglas, I think that he's a fun add here. He had 6 targets, 4 catches, 59 yards. He's commanding targets. He's efficient. Demario Douglas, definitely get him if he's on your waivers. And then another Patriots wide receiver, we have Kendrick Bourne, where since week 5, right, weeks 5, 6, and 7, he has been over 90% of the routes. Every game this season, actually, weeks 1, 5, 6, and 7, every time he's gone over 90% of the routes, he's gone over 20% of the targets, and 3 out of those 4 weeks, he has top 12 finishes. Kendrick Bourne is somebody you can start week in and week out if this usage sticks. Now, after that, we have Dalton Kincaid, our 10th and final must-add here. He had a little bit of a bump in usage this week where he comes out here, he runs 63% of the routes, which was more than Dawson Knox. Just the second time this season, he's ran more routes than Dawson Knox. He had a 20% plus target share the first time he's had that all season. He comes out here and just absolutely balls, where you can see as well, he had 16 PPR points. He had a top 6 finish, or he was a tight end 6 on the week, which is great. And then you have another little bit of a wrinkle where, I don't know why Kincaid is so small down here, but you have Dawson Knox who's hurt. Now, this is banged up Bills. This is an injury analyst that follows the Bills. He said still have a ton of research to do, but if Knox tore his I mean, god damn, he tore a ligament. I couldn't tell you what ligament that is, but he tore a ligament, and the repair timelines are 4 to 6 months. Explains why they don't have a timeline, so if he can return, they're not pressuring him. Additional damage could lead to changing timelines, #Bill. So essentially what he's saying, I mean, I'm going to check his Twitter right now and see if he has any updates, but like I'm hearing like potentially out for the season for Dawson Knox. So if Kincaid is somehow on your waivers, which is crazy. I'm telling you, he's out there. He's only owned in 31.3% of ESPN leagues. So he might be on waivers. And he's somebody where if you don't have, Kittle, Hawk, Andrews, Kelsey, and I think I'd probably put like Waller and probably Goddard over him. But if we're talking like you're streaming every week, like Dalton Kincaid, someone you can honestly unload the absolute clip on it. Oh, okay. So he did get an update. Finding a ton of information on the possible injury and timelines for Knox. This is a complex injury without a ton of additional information right now. I'm finding some info that can significantly shorten up a timeline to return. Stay tuned. So that's pretty general. Maybe it's not looking like the entire season, but he's going to miss some time. That's huge for Dalton Kincaid, especially because a lot of the tight ends production comes from just running a ton of routes. So with Knox out, there's going to be a lot of routes available at tight end. And it's also interesting as well, keep an eye out. If Knox misses a bunch of time, that means they're going to run less 12 personnel. It's going to get Dalton Kincaid out there, and it's also going to get a slot receiver out there. So I imagine Deontay Hardy is probably the next guy up there. We're talking really, really deep leagues, but Deontay Hardy might get a little bit of a bump with that Dawson Knox injury. Now, that is going to do it for us today. If you want my complete fab recommendation breakdown, I write an article every single Tuesday for the good people over on Patreon, patreon.com/Ron Stewart. You can find it in the description. You can find it in the comment section down below, pinned at the top. Every single week I go through and I write my top 15 running backs, top 15 wide receivers, tight ends, quarterbacks. I outline exactly how much fab I'm bidding on them, and I give you a little blurb on kind of what my thoughts are on those players. So if you're struggling on the waiver wire this year, definitely check it out. You get my weekly rankings, my rest of season rankings, all of that good stuff. Dynasty, you get it all. Patreon.com/Ron Stewart. But if you can't support there, not a big deal, man. Just make sure you go down below, subscribe, leave a like, and I will see you guys in the next one.
Stones, like this froze, ice cold, ice around my body like I'm